Good morning, my dear students. So yesterday I discussed about what is soil, how is soil formed, what do we mean by weathering, what is humus, and the different layers of soil. And one more topic, the different uses of soil. So I hope you have gone through my video. And today, the first topic that I am going to discuss with you is the composition of soil. What are the components that are present in soil? So they are the composition of soil. Soil is made up of rock particles, minerals, humus, air, water, and living organisms. Rock particles of different sizes, so many minerals, humus, air, water, and living organisms like earthworms, so many beetles, insects, etc. So they are the types of rock particles. On the basis of size, the rock particles are classified into clay, silt, sand, and gravel. Clay, the smallest size rock particles are called clay. Number 2, silt. The rock particles in soil which are little larger than the clay particles but smaller than the sand particles. They are known as silt. The size of silt is bigger than clay and smaller than the size of sand. Sand, the rock particles which are bigger in size than silt are known as sand. And gravel. Gravels are the largest size rock particles which are present in soil. The gravels are also called tiny stones. Okay, now let's come to the types of soil. There are three types of soil. There are three types of soil. Number 1, sandy soil. Sandy soil. And number 2, clay soil. Clay soil. And number 3 is loamy soil. Loamy soil. Sandy soil contains mainly sand. Sandy soil contains mainly sand. And clay soil. Clay soil mainly contains clay. Then what about the loamy soil? Loamy soil contains sand also, clay also, and silt also. Okay, the loamy soil contains silt, sand, clay, these all silt, sand, clay are present in loamy soil. So in case of sandy soil, the particles of soil are very large. In sandy soil, most of the particles are large in size. They are very large in size, like this. Okay, due to the large size of the particles, the space between the rock particles are also much more space is present, more space you can see. In case of sandy soil, the particles are very large and the space between them is also very big. Okay, but in case of clay soil, the rock particles, are very small size. The size of the particles are very small. Due to the small size of the clay soil, the space between the particles are also very small. Okay, in sandy soil, the size of the particles are very large. That's why the space between them is also very big. There's so many spaces present in case of sandy soil. But in clay soil, the particles size are very small size. The size of the particles are very small. That's why the space between the particles is also very small. Okay. Then what about the loamy soil? In loamy soil, I have told you that sandy soil is also present, clay soil is also present, and the silt is also present. So in case of loamy soil, large particles are also present and small clay particles are also present. Okay, and the space between this loamy soil, the space between the particles in loamy soil are not very big, not so small. They are in a proper space. Appropriate space is present between the particles. Okay, students. And now, as the space are very large in case of sandy soil, so when you give water to sandy soil, the water can easily drain out of the spaces. When you give water to sandy soil, the water can easily drain out of these spaces present in the sandy soil. Okay, therefore sandy soil cannot hold much water. But in case of clay soil, you can see the spaces between the particles is very small. So if you give water to clay soil, to clay soil, the water cannot drain out of the living spaces easily. Okay, due to very small spaces present in the clay soil, if you give water, then waters cannot drain out easily. So clay soil can hold much more water than sandy soil. Okay. Then what about the loamy soil? Loamy soil has the right water holding capacity, because in loamy soil the size of the particles are in appropriate manner. In loamy soil, large particles are also present and small particles are also present. Okay. So loamy soil has the right capacity to hold water. Sandy soil cannot hold much water, because if you give water, the water easily drain out of the spaces. But clay soil can hold much more water than sandy soil, because the particles are very small and the spaces between them are also very small. So if you give water, then water cannot drain out of it easily. So it can hold much more water. The water holding capacity of clay soil is very good, but in sandy soil the water holding capacity is not very good, because water easily drains out. But the loamy soil has the right water holding capacity. Okay. Now let us discuss few differences between sandy soil and clay soil. So number one, sandy soil contains mainly sand. It means more sand and less clay. Okay. Sandy soil contains mainly sand. It contains more sand particles but less clay particles. But in case of clay soil, it contains mainly clay particles. Okay. Clay soil mainly contains clay particles and very less amount of sand is present. In sandy soil, more sand, less clay, but in clay soil, more clay and less sand. Number two, you can see the particles in sandy soil are very large with large spaces. Okay, so these are the particles of sandy soil, where you can see large spaces are present. The spaces which I have draw dark here, you can see the dark spaces. They are the spaces present between the large particles of sandy soil. But in case of clay soil, the particles are very small with very small spaces between them. Okay, very small particles and very small spaces. In sandy soil, large particles with large space. Okay, students. Sandy soil cannot hold much water. The water holding capacity of sandy soil is very less. But number three, in case of clay soil, it can hold more water. That means the water holding capacity of clay soil is very more, because the spaces between the clay soil particles is very small, so water cannot easily drain out of it. So water holding capacity is more in clay soil. But in case of sandy soil, the spaces present between the particle is very large, so if you give water to them, then the water easily drain out of it. So the sandy soil cannot hold much water. Number 4. It provides good aeration to plant roots. In sandy soil there are large spaces are present, so sandy soil can trap more air. But in case of clay soil, it cannot trap enough air for the plant roots, because in clay soil the particles are very small, so the spaces between the particles are also very small. So due to less space between the particles, the amount of air is very less, so less amount of air is trapped in clay soil. But in case of sandy soil, the spaces between the particle is very large, so large amount of air can be trapped between the spaces. Okay. Sandy soil is very loose, but clay soil is tightly packed. Sandy soil is very light, but clay soil is very heavy. Do you know why sandy soil is light and why clay soil is heavy? Sandy soil is light because it cannot hold much water. Sandy soil do not have much water, it cannot hold much water, so it is very light in weight. But in case of clay soil, the water is present, so water, due to the presence of water also, the weight increases. So clay soil is very heavy due to the presence of water in them. Okay. Sandy soil is non-sticky. Due to its non-sticky manner, we cannot make the earthen pots by using sandy soil. But we can make the earthen pots using clay soil, because clay soil is very sticky. So due to the sticky manner of clay soil, we can make different earthen pots by using clay soil. Sandy soil is less fertile. Why? Because sandy soil contains almost no humus, so that's why it is less fertile. But clay soil is more fertile than the sandy soil, because clay soil contains some amount of humus. That's why clay soil is more fertile. If humus is present, then the soil will be fertile. If humus is absent, then soil cannot be a fertile one. Okay, so these are the differences between sandy soil and clay soil. Number 1, sandy soil contains mainly sand. but clay soil mainly contains clay. The particles in sandy soil is very large particles with large space. But in case of clay soil, very small particles and very small space. Sandy soil cannot hold much water. The water holding capacity of sandy soil is not good enough. But clay soil can hold more water. The water holding capacity of clay soil is very good. So these are the few differences. You can take the screenshot also. So these are the homeworks for today. Number 1, difference between sandy soil and clay soil. Number 2, why is clay soil heavier than the sandy soil? Okay, thank you.